So I've been thinking about this thing about essence, and I just don't get why people hang on to essence. But then I was thinking back to when I was realizing the crucial differences here between being and doing, and being and becoming, and yeah, I remembered all the resistance and the resistance people gave me as I was struggling, and the resistance from within my own mind until I shed my delusions on how things are defined and how they work and how the mind thinks. And but I'm left with, for 20 years I've realized this, and it's become incredibly clear. And as I check with other people, I see they understand the same facts I understand and just have not arrived at the conclusion. So it becomes confusing to me because, for example, if you argue with people about essence, nobody that believes in essence anymore will tell you they've discovered one or found one or know of one. You know, because essence is different from an objective fact. People that believe in objective facts will say, "Look, this pen is objectively here." And it's a big approximation because they're not saying much about the pen, and they're not dealing with solipsistic arguments and things like that. That's another issue from essence. Essence is supposed to be a complete internal statement of something from which all of its properties arise, and there is no such thing. But even if there was, we know humans can't find those things. And it's like in history, everything that was an essence that we thought we understood, gravity, no, it was different. We thought we understood, and it gets being different. So those couldn't be essences because essences wouldn't be changing like that. So part of it then is a hubris that right now is a perfect place in history. We have just finally got the ideas that'll last now forever, you know. And 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 yet, if you argue in those details on the factual level with people, nobody seems to deny the pertinent facts that tell us that doing and is related to perceiving more directly than being is related to uh, perceiving. And this is the real thing. I mean, this is the actual skeptical argument, is this issue about being. The skepticism is about what is. The acceptance of assenting uh, to appearances is a statement about the primacy of actions. Little, you know, atomic to us actions of sensory events streaming through. Those are more like action than being. Being is something you characterize uh, the action with. And, I had come to decide this and thought that I discovered something. I abstracted this out of physics and the fact that in physics there's no being, there's just change and becoming, and everything's in motion, dynamic. But as I've told this story before, and then I found out about skepticism, where they'd held this for a long time before they knew modern physics. And indeed, modern physics had grown out of applications of a skeptical epistemology and knowledge as theory and this kind of thing. And it just has crystallized as very, very clear. So am I crazy? Am I seeing a hallucination because nobody else sees it? Or is it really there and everybody else is hallucinating when they look in that direction? And I'm sorry, but I think it's the latter, because nobody can step through the facts and deny the basic elements. I mean, if you're an objectivist, but you admit you can, an essentialist, let's say, but you admit you cannot know something essential. Well, sure, you could throw a variable around something you don't understand. Say, M represents the mass. You don't totally understand mass or where it comes from, Higgs boson, what, but you can kind of wrap it with the net because it can be quantified. But if you have something a variable that can never be filled in with a value, and you start playing with that variable in equations, you're just fooling yourself. If the value is the unquantifiable essenceness of truth, you know, and you're going to say it has that setting, but it can never be set to anything. That's, you know what I mean? E equals mc squared doesn't mean anything if m can never be set to a value. What's the point of equations if when you start to use them to make calculations, they're unusable? What is the use of an unusable equation, an unusable variable. So, you need to be self-prohibited and have self-restraint, creating variables for things that can't be filled in. You create a variable, you should be able to fill the variable in. In fact, the definition of a variable, to me, implies that. M represents not mass in general, but the measure of its, you know, inertia or reaction to other gravitational bodies. So, um, I just don't see, I mean, I still don't see, other than historical reasons, like we've been enslaved to various masters for thousands of years, that explain why this is not clearer to people, and how they really just are clinging to essentials, even when they know they can't have the essential. Oh, but I can still say that it must be there. No, there is no thing which is responsible for all of the properties of something. Because even if the thing is that phenomena, is the system, and you can say, well, the system is responsible. No, because there's other systems it's interacting with that are also responsible. If you would say, well, it's all the systems, okay, that's kind of trivial, because you're just saying all the universe is responsible. So you can't isolate systems. I'm not an individual anymore. It's not possible to individuate me. It's just a matter of the difference of a dynamic system and the actual concept, classically, of a thing, of an unchanging essential thing. There are no unchanging essential things. Everything's changing. And it really doesn't matter how close you get when you model something. A model cannot be the essence. For example, let's say you make a model of the White House and it is exact. It's got the electrical outlets, everything. Maybe you even have little robot people walking around where the people are in the White House based on White House security footage or something. If somebody moves an electrical outlet or makes an alteration in the real White House, your model gets out of date, right? So even for that period of time when the model was as exact as it could be, besides the point that obviously it couldn't be exact. Let's say it was a minimalist thing, but it's supposed to catch the essence. It can't be the essence. At the best, it could be a model that by coincidence was exactly like its essence. Okay, but that's not how modeling works, right? There's a lot of different ways to model. If I made that form, it's not going to be made out of the same materials as the real White House. It's not related to the real White House in any essential form. And this is what we've done. This is what Plato did. Is he took the form, which is an idea of something that a person has, and pretended it was the source of the things. And it's obvious that the real thing is the source of the idea. The form is abstracted from the real things. And they had that totally backwards. And the ramifications were severe. It leads to a hatred of life, because life becomes an imperfect copy of your perfect idea. But if your idea was perfect, it would match reality. So this mistake leads to us complaining about reality when it's really our ideas that need to change. So anyway, cheers. What is it?